The NBA is one of the world's most popular professional sports leagues. The sport of basketball is growing around the world at a quicker rate than anyone could have possibly predicted. Along with being very entertaining, the NBA is also very diverse. The league is represented by 37 different countries and territories all around the globe. The NBA also contains a lot of black players. At the start of the 2015 season, 75% of the players that played in the NBA were black. Since the league is dominated by black players, one may be surprised to find out that the league is not dominated by black coaches. At the start of the 2015-2016 NBA season, the league only had 6 black coaches. Out of those 6 teams that currently do have black coaches, only 2 of them are posting above 500 records. One of them is Doc Rivers of the Los Angeles Clippers, and the other is Dwayne Casey of the Toronto Raptors. One reason for the sudden shortage of black coaches in the NBA could be from how the game has adapted over time. One possible reason for there being less and less black coaches in the NBA is how the NBA has adapted from more of a 2-point game to a 3-point game. The league over recent years has seen an increase in 3-pointers attempted, 3-pointers made, and 3-point percentage. This graph shows the increase in 3-pointers taken over a period of time in the NBA. Besides layups or shots really close to the paint, 3-pointers are the next highest taken shot in the NBA. This graph compares 2 of the league's greatest 3-point shooters ever to play the game, one being Larry Bird and the other being Stephen Curry. You can clearly see how many more 3-point attempts per game Curry takes over Bird. Like Larry Bird, some of the NBA's leading 3-point percentage shooters are white. For the 2012-2013 NBA season, 4 out of the top 5 3-point percentage shooters were white. These 4 players were Jose Calderon, Steve Nash, Ersan Ilyasova, and Kyle Korver. Since most of the league's good 3-point shooters are white, this could possibly explain the reason for there being less and less black coaches in the NBA. Although this is a good theory, a more logical reason for there being less and less black coaches in the NBA is quite simply because a lot of these coaches were former players. This next picture shows 10 of the 13 most recent black coaches to be fired in the NBA. As you can notice, these 10 coaches were all former NBA players. Out of the 13 black coaches fired, 11 of them played in the NBA, while the other 2 coaches that didn't play in the NBA played basketball in college. Just because you were a good basketball player doesn't always mean you will be a good basketball coach. One example of a good NBA player and a horrible NBA coach is San Antonio Spurs legend Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson played in the NBA for 17 seasons. He was most known as being the starting point guard for the San Antonio Spurs during the 1999 NBA Finals. In that season, Johnson helped lead the Spurs to its first NBA title in franchise history. His number 6 was eventually retired by the Spurs organization. After retiring from basketball in 2004, Johnson became an assistant coach for the Dallas Mavericks. After 1 year as an assistant, Johnson was promoted to the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks. In the 2006-2007 NBA season, Johnson led the Mavericks to a 67-win season and the number 1 seed in the tough Western Conference. Unfortunately for Johnson, the Mavericks lost in the first round of the playoffs to the 8-seeded Golden State Warriors. This surprising first-round upset is said to be the greatest upset in NBA history. After being fired from Dallas, Johnson then became the head coach of the New Jersey Nets. After the Nets made the move to Brooklyn, the team's expectations rose and Johnson couldn't keep up with them. He was eventually fired in the inaugural season of the Brooklyn Nets after coaching the team to a mediocre start. Johnson's coaching experience is similar to all the other former NBA players turned NBA coach. So, if organizations are no longer hiring former NBA players, Then who are these organizations hiring to be their head NBA coach? Organizations have begun the trend of hiring more college coaches, foreign coaches, and former video coordinators to lead their teams. Brad Stevens, Fred Hoiberg, and Billy Donovan are all former college basketball coaches that had no previous NBA experience. All three of these coaches currently have their prospective teams in the playoffs. Eric Spoelstra, the coach of the Miami Heat, and Frank Vogel, coach of the Indiana Pacers, began their careers as video coordinators with no NBA playing experience whatsoever. Both of these coaches coached two of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. The Cleveland Cavaliers decided to hire an international coach in David Blatt. Blatt won titles in Europe and Israel, but had never previously coached in the NBA. Blatt, as a first-year coach, led the Cleveland Cavaliers to the 2015 NBA Finals. Taking all of these things into consideration, we know that the league is hiring less and less former players to be head coaches. Since about 75% of the league is black, it makes sense for there to be less and less black coaches in the NBA.